Oil. The whole world depends on it. From creating plastics, to generating electricity, to powering our cars, the world consumes tens of millions of barrels of oil a day. So what does just 1 million barrels of oil look like? Well, how about this? This is the Million Barrel Museum in Monahans, Texas. Monahans is a town in West Texas with a population of a little less than 8,000 people, about 36 miles west of Odessa, Texas. In my previous video about the Odessa Stonehenge, I mentioned this area of West Texas, the Permian Basin, was once the site of an ancient ocean 100 million years ago, which explains the presence of petroleum. Exploitation of oil resources began in the basin in the early 1920s and quickly ramped up through the decade. The construction was undertaken by Roxana Petroleum, a subsidiary of Shell, in 1928 due to an oil boom in the region. Oil infrastructure was poor during this time, with few oil pipelines and storage tanks to hold the crude oil until it could be taken to a refinery for processing. This huge outdoor pit was actually designed to hold 5 million barrels of oil. The pit was constructed by digging a large hole in the ground, approximately 35 feet deep, 520 feet long, and 420 feet wide. Workers packed the earth after excavation, then laid a wire mesh atop the packed earth and poured concrete over the mesh to create the large bowl we see today. The concrete was not poured all at once. Instead, they were poured in sections, which is why there are seams in the reservoir. It's important to note that concrete shrinks when it dries, meaning that a very large concrete project risks extensive cracking if time and attention is not taken to minimize complications due to shrinkage. Completion of the reservoir took only 3 months as the laborers worked 24 hours around the clock using mule-drawn equipment. After the concrete bowl was created, workers placed wooden support columns at roughly 14-foot intervals to support a domed red wood cover. The wood cover was built to protect the reservoir from the elements and to slow down crude oil evaporation. The cover is now gone, having been dismantled by Shell in 1935 after they abandoned the reservoir. Planks of wood are rumored to have made it into the construction of local Monahan structures. Let's talk about barrels for a moment. The global standard oil barrel size today is 42 gallons, or about 159 liters. This is in contrast to the widespread and industrially popular 55-gallon barrel. In 1866, a group of industrialists met in Titusville, Pennsylvania, and decided upon the 42-gallon barrel, a common size at the time, as the standard size. Pennsylvania was then the world's leading producer of oil. The reservoir was filled to capacity with oil only once and began losing oil shortly afterwards through leakage in the ground and through evaporation. Shortly after its completion in 1928, the stock market crashed in the fall of 1929, leading to the Great Depression. The reservoir was abandoned by Shell shortly after it was completed due to leaking, an increase on tax of stored oil, and market conditions. Shell would reduce their workforce by 50% during the Great Depression. Oil was pumped into the reservoir through intake near the large drainage channel, which was designed to empty the reservoir in the event of a fire. Lightning rods were also installed atop the wooden dome cover to reduce the chance of a fire caused by a lightning strike. After the reservoir was abandoned by Shell, it remained largely forgotten until Monahans expressed an interest in purchasing the land in 1954. The deal did not go through, but a former city employee, Wayne Long, purchased the land. Long had plans to turn the reservoir into a giant pool and drilled water wells nearby to fill the tank. Long named his new attraction Melody Park, and it opened to the public on October 5, 1958. A pair of water skiers was brought over from Austin to perform for the gathered crowd. Unfortunately for Long, the reservoir was no better at holding water as it was at holding oil, and Melody Park was closed after only one day due to leakage. Determined to save his investment, Long commissioned engineering surveys to determine the cause and find a solution to the leakage problem, with no success. Long even attempted to convert the reservoir into an automobile racetrack, with no success. Wayne Long died of a heart attack in 1980, and 6 years later, his widow, Emily Long, donated the reservoir and the surrounding land to the Ward County Historical Commission. The museum is just off of Interstate Highway 20 and is open Tuesday through Saturday, and admission is free. The museum includes other exhibits, such as the Holman House, a bomber-based museum which features an exhibit about the nearby Pyote Air Force Base, which was constructed in 1942 during World War II, and other historical exhibits. Today, the museum is also used for other purposes, such as square dancing, outdoor cookouts, and special holiday events. If you ever find yourself in the Odessa Midland area, I think it's worth a look. Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe for more content. Have a nice day.